welcome to another episode of Pet Pals. I'm Bethany Davidson, the humane educator here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. Animal wrangling for us, and possibly having quite a challenge. It's all on the fence about it, is our volunteer coordinator, Sean Snyder. And our first guest is full of energy, and that's probably because he's young. You know, the youth are full of energy these days. He is 2 months old. His name is Bowtie Joe. He is one of our pasta cats. So we've been naming cats right now after pasta. So there's other kittens out there, Frederick Frank, Nancy Noodle, and then his sister is actually Dinah Nugget. There's a lot of kittens still hanging around in the shelter. So, you know, kitten season is lasting longer than it used to in the past because, you know, we've been getting much warmer days. In fact, you know, recently we'll probably get some kittens, you know, a couple weeks out from now because of the warm weather we're having right now. So, still plenty of kittens if that's what you're looking for. This guy is adorable first and foremost, but he is also just your typical kitten. He is very outgoing, very friendly, very energetic, curious, wants to get into everything. He does have a sibling, so he is used to living with another kitten. So if you're looking for two, there are two in that pair, but he would also probably do fine with any other kitten. If you have an older cat, he might be a little extra for your older cats, because he wants to play and he likes to play a little bit rough. You know, he does want to wrestle and chew on ears and do all of those things. So, you know, an older cat might be helpful. He might, you know, learn some manners, might get put in his place, or the older cat just might not be really excited about that type of play style. So things to consider, but he's definitely going to make a great addition to any household, because he's just, you know, super confident and, you know, really fun. If you're looking for a kitten to wear out your kids, then Bowtie Joe might be a great option.
So Bowtie Joe recently traveled with us to an event. How'd he do?
So he did really well. You know, some of the other cats, we took his sister and then another female cat, Sally. They were a little bit more reserved. They were like, if I sit over here and pretend to be asleep, maybe strangers won't touch me. And Joe here was awake like the entire time. He took a couple of power naps to regain some energy, but he was playing, he was wrestling, he was engaging with people. Not fearful of the large numbers of people that were coming up to him. At one point, someone came in with a service dog, and the other cats were kind of like, "What's that?" And he just didn't care. So he would likely do well in a home with a canine friend as well. So he has tons of positives, but definitely a cat that's probably going to jump on some stuff, maybe knock some things over. So if you're interested in making Bowtie Joe part of your family, might want to do some kitten proofing before you take him home. If you do want to take that chance and see if he's going to, you know, do well with your pets and your family, you can go to visit fcac.as.me to start that process. Our next cat is quite larger. This is Captain Sushi, and he is one of our many adult cats right now. He's about 3 years old. And interestingly enough, we don't have a ton of black cats right now. So usually we have a fair amount of black cats, and they kind of blend in and aren't as noticeable. But because we don't have as many right now, that's an opportunity for a cat color that doesn't usually, you know, get people's attention to maybe stand out a little bit more. He is super affectionate. You know, 3 years old, not a kitten, but still quite a young cat that's going to have a long life with your family. A lot of people give that as the reason for they want kittens. They want a cat that's going to grow with their family. And, you know, with kittens, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. But with a cat about Sushi's age here, you know, he's really more established in his personality. So you know what you're going to get for that whole lifespan. And as you can see, lap cat tendencies, definitely loves attention. When I was interacting with him, you know, he was like, yeah, pet me, but also don't ever stop. Like, he's going to lean into you. He's going to show you what he wants. We call that initiating petting, when they really lean into you like that. They're like, yeah, give me all of that love. And he's also a cat that's been okay with being picked up and handled, and that's important to a lot of our cat adopters. So he seems fairly comfortable with that type of interaction. So he has all of those kind of check mark boxes that people really like. He's also fairly laid back. He's not one of those cats that's demanding of your attention. He's, perfectly content to hang out, very friendly, doesn't have any issues with strangers. So we'll hopefully slide right into a home. We don't necessarily have a history of him with other cats, but our previous guest, Bowtie Joe, lives right underneath of him. So he doesn't seem to be annoyed with all of those kitten antics. So hopefully would be a cat that would be able to with the right introduction, acclimate to a multi-cat household as well.
So Captain Sushi's great personality. He got a special place on our adoption floor. Where's that?
So he is in our greeter cage, which is the very first cage you see when you walk onto the cat floor. It's the top ones right at your eye line so that people, that's the first hi, buddy. That's the first one that they're going to go to. That cage is, despite all our best effort, gets lots of fingers in the cage, a lot of the, excited oohs and ahs of people. And he can really handle that. So that's why we try to put cats with those, strong personalities, those outgoing, confident cats in that cage, because it can be overwhelming for our more shy animals. And he is doing really well there. And hopefully that prize spot will get him into a home sooner rather than later. If you want your home to be that home for Sushi, you can go to visit fcac.as.me to book an appointment to meet with him. Our next guest is, I believe, the largest dog that we have available for adoption right now at just over 87 pounds. This is our Great Pyrenees mix, Hal, short for Halloween, because that's the day he was made available for adoption. That's the day he made his debut as an adoptable dog. And he is a very nervous dog, despite being the biggest dog that we have. He's definitely the shyest one, the one that is the most quiet and really needs like that gentle kind of attention. He needs, he's a sensitive guy. A little slow moving, but he's not necessarily what you would expect. And he is a dog that's going to need some quiet patience. He doesn't really have a lot of confidence. So he needs a family that's just going to be willing to move at his pace and let him, show you who he is in time. Don't kind of force him or press him. Some of the traditional things that tend to work for making doggy friends don't necessarily seem to be working with Hal. Some of the dogs, like, you just give them food and they're like, oh, you're my best friend forever. And he's like, I don't really care. But, every day he is becoming more and more confident. He's doing better on his leash. He was a little bit fearful of that at first. He really seems to be more comfortable outside. So once he figured out that the leash means he goes outside, he was a little bit more excited about it. And kennel techs were telling me just this morning that when he was in the outdoor kennel, he started playing, something that was new for them to see for the first time today. So he is slowly making his way out of his shell, but it's definitely something that's going to be a little bit of a project dog. He's definitely a guy that would benefit from more outside time than inside time. So, if you live in a more rural area, that's going to be probably more his speed than if you live, in town or in an apartment complex or things like that. He's just not going to be as comfortable in those types of environments.
So he doesn't love toys or treats, but there is something this shy guy really likes.
Yes, he is an incredibly affectionate little cuddle bug, which you wouldn't necessarily guess by looking at him. But once he's comfortable with you, he wants you to pet him, rub him all the time. He was, one of our smaller kennel techs has been working with him, and she was sitting in the grass, and he was like trying to physically get into her lap. And they probably are pretty close in weight, to be fair. But like, he thinks he's a lap dog, and affection is really what wins him over. So, just being calm with him, getting down low, and and just petting him, rubbing him. He loves belly rubs. And if you can do that with him outside, then he's like in heaven. That's really what he loves. You're not going to win him over with, giving him a cool toy. It's just not what he likes. But if you can start petting him, then you will quickly become best friends with Hal. If you think that your family has the patience to help Hal build his confidence and become the best version of himself, then you can go to visit fcac.as.me to begin that process. Now, we mentioned with Hal, he's more of a slow mover. If you're looking for something with a little bit more energy, then maybe Skylar is what you're looking for, because this dog is essentially pure energy. She is a beautiful dog. She's a shepherd mix. She's got a red brindle coat, which is a little bit unusual for this type of dog. But she's just super gorgeous. She's got cute little floppy ears. And she is just full of energy, wants to run, wants to play. If you're a couch potato and you're looking for a couch potato companion, Skylar's probably not going to be the best fit for you. Personally, I think she would do better with somebody who's a little bit more dog savvy, because she is a dog that really needs to work on her manners. She does know things. She's eager to get those treats. So she's, fairly easy to train, but she definitely needs somebody who's willing to put in the work and make sure that there's a consistency there with those good manners. She's about just over a year old now. And so she's still working again on those manners, but she's also a little bit reactive to certain people in certain situations. She's become a little bit more fearful of men than when we had previously interacted with this dog. And she's just a little bit more cautious of all new people. Once you get a leash on her, she seems to be okay. But like if a new volunteer walks up to her kennel, she's just barking. She's definitely unsure. We're not sure if she's nervous or she's just being demanding. But then once you get a leash on her, for the most part, she seems to be okay. She wants to go out. She wants to play. Somebody who's really capable of reading those body language cues is going to be a better fit for Skylar than maybe somebody this is going to be their first dog. But definitely somebody who's going to be willing to work and recognize that this isn't just a turnkey dog. She is going to need a little bit of training, maybe more than some of our other dogs.
So Skylar was adopted from us and then returned, correct?
Yeah. So Skylar was originally Flora back in May, and she was about 8 months old then. And, the way that she was returned isn't the way that we would hope that people would return their pets. Essentially, her owner missed his relinquishment appointments. We do ask people who are surrendering owned animals to make appointments so we can be prepared and make sure we have enough space for the animals. Missed the appointment and then came to the back door. And once the door opened, kind of just tossed the dog in and left and didn't want to give us any information. And, depending on situations, we are going to take your animal. Sometimes if it's an emergency, we'll take them before your appointment and things like that. But it really is important for us to have conversations with those adoptive people who are returning these pets, because we want to know all the information we can about them. We want to know how they're doing with, other animals, with different types of people, with children. Are they afraid of anything? Do they have things that they really like? Because that's going to help us provide them with the best care while they're here in the facility, and also try to find them with a more suitable match in the future so that they can stay in that home for the rest of their lives. We're not trying to ask these questions to be invasive or to be nosy. We're trying to do it so that we can do the best thing for the animal. So if, you are thinking about surrendering your pet and you're watching this show, then make sure that you take the time to really fill out that information, because it's going to help the animal and the next person who's going to be caring for them. But if you're ready to be the next person to take on Flora, I still call her Flora, we all do, Skylar, and all of her energy, then you're going to need to book an appointment to meet her by going to visit fcac.as.me. We don't often get puppies or, super young dogs under 6 months. And despite his appearance, Bailey here is just about 4 months old. He came to us as a stray relatively recently and is looking for a forever home. He is a dog that already has an application, but I thought it would be good to showcase him just to show people that we do get puppies from time to time, and we also do get a variety of dogs, not just the pit bull type dogs that people seem to think we have all the time. Yes, we do get a large number of those things, but our animal population reflects what the animals that people in the community have. Because, we only take in animals from Frederick County, whereas a lot of other facilities can pull animals from the south or other shelters. We are only allowed to take in animals from this area. So we have Bailey down as a a rough coat collie mix, and he is adorable, as is evident. He's got the adorable little puppy face, but he is all those things that puppies are. He's learning to play and what he can and can't put his mouth on. So sometimes he can be a little bit mouthy, like he's just trying to chew on the furniture right now. He is learning to take treats nicely. He doesn't have manners because he needs somebody to teach him those things. Although he does seem to already have a sit. Nobody's told me that he's awful on leash. But he's still working on all of those things. So definitely needs an owner that's committed to the puppy process. So house training, crate training, making sure he knows not to jump on people. All of those types of things are going to be really important for him. We have volunteers that are able to interact with him, but because of his young age, he's not allowed to play in our play yards and things like that. But he is going to be a fun dog for somebody, but you just need to make sure, again, with a puppy, you're willing to put in the work, because Flora was a young, Skylar, was a young dog when she left, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like the person who adopted her put in that work. Same thing with Benny, who was on the show last episode. Taking these young dogs home and not committing to the training process, they often end up back here in our facility.
So last episode, we did talk about being mindful of how big a puppy may get.
Yes.
So what are we thinking that Bailey may get to?
So Bailey is already 41 pounds. He carries the weight well, but he's already larger than some of the other. He's about the same size weight as some of our smaller pit bull mixes. So I did some research this morning, and according to the American Kennel Club, a male rough coat collie could get between 60 and 75 pounds. And he's already 40. We don't know what he's mixed with. So, being mindful that he could become a quite large dog. So if, a large dog is something that you can't have in your rental property, just because he's 41 pounds and meets the weight limit now doesn't mean that in a couple months he will meet those requirements. Or if you think that you're not going to be able to handle a large dog with, just your physical strength, or he might knock you down, those are all things that you want to consider before taking on a puppy, and doing some research about the breed and making sure you can handle their exercise requirements and not just looking at his adorable little puppy face. But if you're prepared to take on a puppy and you understand all of those things that come with that responsibility, and you want to meet with Bailey, you can go to visitfcac.as.me to begin that process. Making yet another repeat performance on our show is one of our long-term residents. This is Evan. Evan, Harley, and Mr. Peabody are our 3 longest residents, all well over 200 days in their current stays, but all animals that have been adopted and returned relatively closely. So, if you're taking their cumulative stays, they've all been here with us for over a year to a certain degree, all doing fairly well in terms of handling this stressful environment. Evan is about 6 to 7 years old, and he is one of our terrier mixes. He is adorable, obviously. Not a stranger to treats, as we were just discussing. He's getting a little plump. So we're working on getting him out and getting him a little bit more exercise. He is a dog that's very friendly, very playful, very affectionate, but he does have a medical issue in that he has poor peripheral and nighttime vision. So he does struggle to see from certain angles and in certain lights. So for that reason, we are looking for, primarily adults, but older teens who can understand that is going to be really important. When you're walking him at night, if there's light somewhere and he sees a shadow, it makes him a little bit uncomfortable. Can't always tell what's going on. People who pull from him from the side when he doesn't know you're coming, that startles him and he kind of whips around. So just making sure he can always see you, at least initially. Once he's comfortable with you and he knows you're there, you can kind of touch him like you would any other dog. It's just really making sure that you're establishing that you're there, he knows you, and feels safe. we try our best to make sure that new people are introduced him to in a way, with someone he's familiar with, and they're really being mindful of those visionary things. He did briefly stay at my house for a weekend, and I found that when I went to bed, I put him to bed. I put him in a crate in my room, put a little nightlight by his crate, and he seemed to be fine. He slept all night, no issues, wasn't barking, wasn't upset. So, an environment that has a nice routine is probably going to be the environment that he's best suited for.
So we all know Evan loves his toys.
He does indeed, yes.
But shortly after his last appearance, he had an incident which now requires him to be supervised with toys. What happened?
So Evan started getting sick. He was losing weight. He wasn't eating. He was being very lethargic. So we tried, we were like, maybe he ate something. Somebody found he had vomited in his kennel. He had a little piece of toy in there. So we induced a little bit more vomiting. He, puked up a little bit more. But then a couple days later, he got worse. So one of our vets did an exploratory surgery. And in total, in his intestinal tract and stomach, we found 4 pieces of squeaky toy. So while he does love them, he does have to be supervised with them. We don't know if, when he ate all of those things. It could have happened before he came into our care. It could have happened when he was briefly adopted. But regardless of when it happened, we do make sure that we supervise him now. Like when I take him out, I count all the squeakers in the toys so I know how many I have to have back. Make sure he didn't eat any of those things. When he gets close to, ripping the squeaker out, I trade him, take the squeaker out, give it back to him, and he finishes destroying the toy. So just something to be mindful of. He can still have all of his Nylabones and Jolly Balls and rope toys and things like that unsupervised. We just want to make sure that he's not going to eat any more squeakers that put his health at risk. But if you're up for the challenge of, just watching him while he does this and getting all those cuddles from him, then you can go to visit fcac.as.me. Another important note is Evan is our only senior dog right now, and November is Adopt a Senior Pet Month. So we do have some great discounts, in fact, waived adoption fees for all of our senior pets 5 and up. So for those cats and dogs that fall into that often harder to adopt senior category, we're hoping to get them into some loving homes this month. You can, if you didn't see anything you're interested in making part of your family on the show today, you can always go to our website and check out more of our adoptable animals, or just make an appointment to visit by going to visit fcac.as.me.